All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast weekly leveling up episode, where every single week with these leveling up episodes, I come to you delivering different tips, tactics, and strategies to help you continue to level up in your own personal success journeys. All right, so today, you guys, I don't have a specific topic, or at least as of the time of me recording this, and the reason being is I have 8 different topics, 8 different things that I want to cover with you here on this weekly leveling up episode. And these are just different things that have been, heavy on my mind this week, things that I've been focusing on, things that I've been focusing on for a long time, but, that resurface this week. And whether it be in my own personal life, my own personal leveling up success journeys, which I try to share with you guys here as much as I can on these leveling up episodes. So I'm not delivering things of theory, but things that are actually like getting results. But also things that have come up recently with some of my coaching and clients and some of those that I mentor as well. And I found that all 8 of these different things I'm going to discuss with you are extremely imperative in the time, in the era that we are in. So I'm going to kind of cover a lot of ground, be all over the place here with these different things, but I think that you'll find all of these very valuable, or hopefully you do, because I know I sure as fucking shit do, in my own life, my own leveling up journey. So, all right, so the first thing I want to talk to you about here is controlling your attention, and how attention is now your number one commodity, is our number one commodity. If you were to ask me a couple years ago, I would have said at that point that time was our number one resource, number one commodity. Now today that we've entered full-fledged into this new attention economy era, that's a semi-new, era for us. Attention is now what I believe to be our number one most important commodity, number one most important resource, and something I am guarding more closely than ever before. Because where our attention lies is then how we are going to allocate and utilize the time that we have available to us. So again, we've entered this attention economy. And why are we in this attention economy? Because as we have entered this digital era that we've been in now for several decades, when people's eyeballs are now glued to their devices, and people can't go a second without their devices. It's just like these damn phones, whatever, have become like an appendage, right? Like an attached appendage, to us. I had a buddy of mine that's on vacation right now, and I was talking with him actually yesterday. And when he was in the Uber, his phone and his wallet slipped out of his pocket. And he didn't realize until the Uber had got up, took off, whatever. And then luckily, it looks like he got all that figured out, got it back. But it was a couple days, to light all that shit up and get that back and whatnot. But I asked him, I was like, dude, like, which one were you freaking out more about that you lost, dude? Your phone or your wallet? Both suck, right? They lost both. But he was like, dude, my phone, man, right? And it is, coming back today, he's like, yeah, my wallet contained money, but my phone makes me money, right? But with that, it's like, that's common practice for most people, or just the common with the times that we are in, of like, dude, you lose your wallet. You're like, shit, that sucks. It's an inconvenience. But you lose your phone, you're shitting your pants. So just like people can't go anywhere without these devices. Their eyes are glued to it, their devices, whatever. And it's just the era that we are in. And it's okay, right? Like, it just is what it is, when it comes to that. However, because of that fact, because our eyeballs are glued to, and just how it's not even just that are glued to our phones. It's like, we're working on our computers. Dude, I never thought that I would be at this standpoint. Meaning I fucking sit behind a computer pretty much all day long, when it comes to my work, right? So it's like when I'm not working, it's like I want to get the fuck away from all these devices. I want to, but when I am working, it's like between, it's just Zoom call for Zoom call, meeting after meeting, podcasting like this, whatever it is. It's like, damn. And that's for most of us now, right? I miss being in the field anymore. I was so excited to get out of production, become a full-time team leader in my real estate business, and not have to be, out there showing homes. Now I miss it because I'm like, damn, like, getting that personal interaction, getting out, away from the computer. It was, a different situation. But with that being said, everybody's going to go to where the eyeballs are at. So from marketers, from, whatever. Now we're in this influencer area. This is given the rise to all these fucking influencers that exist out there, that don't necessarily have a product to sell you, but they get your eyeballs, and then the sponsors then, come on, like you're, let's just say you're Mr. Beast of the world or whatever. But it comes down to, man, baiting in, grabbing, creating fear, whatever it is, to go out there and grab your attention, get you hooked in, get you binging more of their content. And if you are not careful, because people are brilliant at this stuff, dude. I mean, you have if you look at Facebook, right? Just a multi-billion-dollar organization. Now, I'm a fan of Facebook, dude. When I say that, because I utilize it as a tool to go out there and grow my business. I don't allow myself to allow that tool to rob my attention and to go out there. I don't use it for entertainment. Right, I use it to go out for the amazing tool that it is to help me grow and expand my business. I'm not using it from an entertainment aspect, right? But when you look at that, like, how does Facebook make their money, man? The average person logs into their Facebook app 17 times a day. You got almost 3 billion active monthly users on that platform right now, and they're just endlessly scrolling, dumb scrolling, going through that thing. So we got all those eyeballs there. Okay, well, Facebook. What is their biggest KPI that they're paying attention to? Time on site, right? So time on device. They want to keep increasing that, right? So then it's like a drug deal. And I'm not trying to compare Facebook or social media to drugs here, but it's like, okay, with a drug dealer, like, dude, they want to get you hooked. They want to get you addicted, so then you need more and more and more of that product, right? Well, same thing, right? But when you are a multi-billion-dollar organization, I don't know what the cap rate is of Facebook yet, so I'll just, throw in a few multis there because it's a damn high cap rate, right? But anyway, dude, they can afford the most brilliant human behavior psychologists and psychiatrists and, neuroscientists and, whatever to figure out how our brain chemistries work, right? And how to keep us addicted to all that shit. Now we got Facebook, we got fucking Threads, we got Instagram, we got Twitter, we got YouTube, we got all this bullshit, right? And again, I'm not saying they're bullshit and a negative thing. I think they are great, but if we're not careful and if we don't guard our attention as if our life depends upon it, or guard our focus, attention is really just focus, right? What do you focus on? Where are you allowing your attention to go? Like, I look at this of this isn't a game I'm going to just, innately win. I got to be intentional about this, man. I got to be very intentional with my attention. So I've got to, set up those guardrails. I've got to be focused on this. I've got to, utilize these devices for the necessary tools that they are to go out there and grow and expand and do the things I need to do with it. But then I got to put parameters in place to ensure I don't get sucked into that negative freaking attention time wasting vortex that's out there. And this is just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. Like you get to the bottom now with AI and not that AI is a new thing. It's been out for 50, since the 1950s, but, the rate of the pace of change, it's exponential growth. So it's, just we're seeing introductions of it to more and more in our lives, right? So, but AI is able to, accelerate, those KPIs and, those important things that those companies are paying attention to get us more addicted to those things. When you go onto like YouTube, it's like every thumbnail and every, title is got to, like, everything's just about, oh man, you gotta hook them, you gotta grab their attention, and you gotta, whatever. So then, I mean, it's like why there's so much fear porn out there and all this crap out there, right? Because it's easily sucks us in. So again, we got to go out there and then guard our attention, guard our focus if your life depends on it, because it's your number one commodity that exists out there. So how do you do this? I'll go quick on this because I want to get to these other topics and not make this like a fucking 2-hour long podcast here. But then from there, dude, just treat it like you would an email box, right? Like email isn't, it's a necessary tool for us to go operate and do business in, but it's not like we're just endlessly scrolling through our feeds or right? Like, schedule it out. Maybe that's a bad analogy. I don't know, but I treat social media like my inbox. Between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. every single morning, that's where I'm creating my content, uploading my content. It takes about 30 minutes to do those things, and not just uploading it, but I'll have it scheduled, throughout the day, because I'm not just uploading all of it between that time frame. So it's about 30 minutes of creation and scheduling, and then 30 minutes of engaging, right? So when I say engaging, going through anybody like comment on my stuff or going through other people's stuff and engaging. So I give myself an hour a day of doing that. So I time block that off. It's on my calendar, just like jumping into my, real estate CRM or whatever, it's just time blocked on my calendar. So I'm in, out, intentional with that. Then from there, on my computer devices, I install, like Facebook Newsfeed Eradicator, because I also have Facebook groups that I manage, for my paid coaching client groups, because all my paid coaching clients have daily access to me. So I want to make sure that, as they're having, issues with obstacles, whatever, a lot of that communication through Facebook groups, plus other portals too, because I want to make sure they all have abundance of access to me, but with that, okay, I'm in those Facebook groups, several times a day, but again, that shit's time blocked. But then I have newsfeed eradicators on there, so I don't allow myself to accidentally see, some bullshit that then sucks me into it. So just be intentional with that. Okay, so number 2, never allow yourself to waste a day. Days are limited. I know that we all understand this. I know that we get this. I want to read a quote here from Robert Greene, who's one of my favorite authors, 33 Strategies of War. He's got so many great books, a multitude of books out there, but he's so brilliant. But anyway, got a quote here from him that says, "Your days are numbered. Will you pass them half awake and half-hearted, or will you live with a sense of urgency?" Right? So this is what I mean on never waste a day, right? Like when you've probably heard me talk about this on previous podcasts, but just in case you missed this, because it's so important, okay, each and every day, like you should never enter a day without that being planned and committed to paper first. So you know exactly what you're going to do from the second you wake up to the second you go to bed for that day to be a win. Now, when I say never waste a day, I am not here to sit there and say that, oh man, you need to grind 24/7. You need to work every single day, all day long. No. Like, if you need to take days off, fine. I take days off too, from time to time, but I do them with intention, right? So when I take a day off, as an example, it's for 2 specific reasons when it comes to my business, right? It's kind of like working out. It's like, okay, like I've got my gym days. Okay, I personally work out 5 days a week. I'll have 2 days off, but those 2 days, rest days, are intentional, right? Like working out every single day, 7 days a week without any rest days is going to probably hinder me more than it does. I mean, even Olympic athletes, whatever, not saying I'm an Olympic athlete, but if you look at Olympic athletes, they need rest days as well. So their body, because when it comes to that element, you got stimulus, you got recovery becomes important. So then when I'm looking at that for days off, right? So I have 2 purposes for days off, right? It's either, so then it's either so I can get the rest that I need, the mental and physical rest that I need to go out there and increase my overall productivity. Because you get to a point, and you can get to a point where there's diminishing returns. Like I found this with myself with work days, like me working in, I've went through phases where I've tried, all-nighters and, whatever, where I've just found like there's a certain amount of hours that I can work every single day before I get a diminishing return on my output. No longer am I mentally or physically effective, so then if I take, stop at that point, go get some rest, then boom, I'm better, even though I might be working less hours because I got the optimal rest that I need, then I'm able to be more effective all around, right? So it's either to, because it's necessary, just like a day off of working out for me to get that output that I need, or do shit that feeds my soul, right? Like do shit that I just love doing, so like this weekend, now I'm not going to take a full day off this weekend. I never really take a full day off, once in a while, but it's very rare. I might still get up, work a few hours early in the morning. It's one of the nice things about being a super early riser like me, because I can get up at 3 a.m., even on the weekends, go in and crank out 4, 5, 6 hours of work. Then by the time I get home, it's like, dude, my family's just kind of getting up on the weekends. Not just getting up, but getting up, breakfast, just all that lazy morning shit that I don't really like to partake in anyway. Then we're ready to go out there and do that thing. But like I'm going to go paddleboarding up the river with family, get some great family time in and feed my soul. It's like, okay, I'm going to, take that time to do the things that I enjoy, do the things that I love, so with the people that I love doing it with. But when I say never allow yourself to waste a day, okay, well, you got shit outside of your, your business, your work or whatever, I'm sure that you love doing, okay, well, even those, I want to be intentional. Like even if I go on a vacation or whatever, I still plan and reflect and go through all of that because I want to maximize that time that I'm on vacation and not waste that to get the most out of it. All right, so never allow yourself to waste a day because they are so damn numbered. And I'm just telling you guys, I'm sure that you can, depending on what age that you are, as you reflect back, you can see how quickly these days, weeks, months go by, through this. All right, so then from there, I want to talk to you guys about failure. So when it comes to failure, as the great Napoleon Hill says in Think and Grow Rich, that the level of success that you create is in direct proportion to the amount of failures. He actually calls them temporary defeats instead of failures. So the level of success that you create is in direct proportion to the amount of temporary defeats that you experience. So you want to create success, you're going to have to go through temporary defeats. You're going to have to go through failures. You want more success, you're going to have to go through more temporary defeats, more failures. When I look at, failure, I don't fail unless I quit. Like unless I abandon it, quit. You're going to experience resistance. You're going to have shit that flops. It's like I look at this like a science experiment, man. You got the control, you got the variable, so I'm always switching out the variables, keeping the control the same to split test to see what works, right? And whether that be, hey man, sometimes like I've had businesses that didn't work out. for whatever reason, but I don't look at it as a failure. Like, I'm here to become a successful entrepreneur. Maybe that was just not the right business vehicle for me to be in, or whatever that is. But when it comes, just understanding that, right? So, step number one of this is having that understanding that one of the most important elements to creating success is that failure process. So many people think they fear failure, but they don't actually. Number one, they don't understand the importance of it and the valuable lessons. Very rarely do we ever learn from our successes. However, we learn those powerful lessons from our failures, aka our temporary defeats, right? Those are create the most powerful learning lessons and really become your overall best friend. Successes can teach you, things of what to do, right? But failures teach us what not to do, right? And also, when we learn what not to do, we can, through process of elimination, we can figure out those things to do. It's like, the famous Edison quote, it took him 10,000 tries to create the light bulb. Well, that was 999,000 ways of him discovering of what didn't work. So that led to him figuring out the one way it did work, right? Or, whatever that is. But when we look at failure itself, so number one, understanding that failure is an essential part of this process. Number two, it is not, when we get to the root cause of this, it's not failure that most people actually fear. It's the judgment of other people that they're actually concerned with. Like, what are other motherfuckers going to say about me if I don't succeed at this thing? So, because if you want to create success, like, you're going to have to fail. You're going to have to just come to copes with it. And we already talked about the number one part of just understanding that. The secondary thing, so the key to allow yourself to go out there and fail forward, if you will, is to stop giving a shit about what people think about you, right? Like, just coming to grips with that and understanding that. I know I got other podcasts on that, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, but like, dude, like, if you don't take actions on the goals that you have and the things that matter most to you outside, because of the opinions of other people, right? Well, then you have a negative internal relationship with yourself, right? You got some self-confidence issues. You've got a negative self-reputation issue, right? Like, you've got to learn to listen to your own internal voice and not give two shits about the opinions of other people. Other people don't pay your bills. I don't want to say people don't care about you, because, of course there are people that care about you. But what I have learned in this life, man, is, it is up to you and only you to turn shit around and make things happen. And when you go through those hardest times of your life, a lot of the people that maybe you were concerned about their opinions, they're nowhere to be found when you're going through those hardest points and elements of your life, right? So quit giving two shits about what other people think. But anyway, those are the things that you got to understand and go out there and solve in order to remove that fear of failure. It's just like public speaking. Oh, so many people have, I've heard this before. I don't know if it's actually true that most people fear public speaking being the number one fear that people have, even more so than death. Which is kind of crazy to think about. But if that's actually true, but I don't know if it's true, but I know that a lot of people have a fear of public speaking itself, right? But when you look at that, it's like, is it actually the fear of public speaking? Do you actually have a fear of getting on that stage? Do you actually have a fear of talking and speaking? No, you have a fear of what are all those people in that fucking audience going to think about you? Right? But if you can learn to mentally not care about what others think about you, then you solve that problem instantaneously, right? Okay, so then from there, on point number, what do we got here? Number 4 here, you must take full responsibility for every aspect of your life. Got to understand, I kind of talked about this in the last point, nobody is coming to save you. Nobody's going to show up on your doorstep and hand you your dreams, hand you your visions, hand you your goals. Nobody's going to when it comes to your struggles that you're experiencing out there, again, dude, like, that's where you kind of really see, who those true core people are in your life when you are going through those darkest damn moments of your life, whether it be a divorce, whether it be, through an extreme crazy loss, of somebody important to you, whether it be, struggling financially, one of Oprah's quotes that I love is, everybody wants to ride in the limo with you. And I'm going to butcher this quote, but it was something like, everybody wants to ride in the limo with you. But what I'm looking for is those that are willing to take the bus with me, if and when I lose the limo. Yeah, right. It's like people want to, be there when the shit's good and you're on those highs. But man, when you're down and out, when you're going through just that shit storm of life, when you're not excited, when you're just, get the living shit kicked out of you through life, well, who shows up? Who's there? But then from there, again, you can't rely on other people, even in those tough moments. You might have some people that show up for that, but it's up to you. Something that, comes up a lot for me. And this is a, lesson I had to learn too in many different aspects of my life, but it's like, dude, like nobody's going to take care of your money. You need to take care of your money. I've had friends and family members and others that, like with their investment accounts, economy fucking takes a hit and they all of a sudden lose, 50% of their net worth in their investment accounts over a single night, and they're blaming the economy, blaming the market. And I get as to why they would, want to point the finger at those things, but at the end of the day, it's their fault, right? Like, okay, if it's if it's my money and money's important to me, like I need to know what the fuck I'm doing and take the time to go out there and gain that expertise and pay attention to that. I'm not just going to hand off my money to some stranger and just have faith and hope that they can go out there, manage this and grow, take care of that, whatever, so when it comes to our money, when it comes to our health, when it comes to our mind, our mental health, like, dude, it is your full responsibility. Because I will tell you right now, like, if we look at your medical doctor. Now, when I say your medical doctor, maybe your medical doctor is one of the unicorns out there, one of the, less than, 0.001% of physicians out there that actually has taken any time to understand preventative healthcare, right? But most doctors out there are dumb as fuck when it comes to any type of creating, being proactive and when it comes to preventative healthcare and being proactive with that, like they're just, you get sick, here's a freaking pill. Right? Like, dude, most doctors, it just blows my mind, right? And if you look at, when you look at like medical school, like they go through less than 8 hours of nutrition and actual, actual nutrition and health training. Everything else is, dude, like you get this sickness, you get this pill that I'm going to prescribe you, then creates 7 other freaking, negative effects, solves this one problem, but now we're going to have 7 other, negative effects. So this one pill I got you on to solve this problem now is going to lead to you being on now 5 other pills, right? But I'm not expecting my doctor to look out for my health. My health is my responsibility. I hear people that will come to me like, oh, well, they didn't tell me that. Why didn't my doctor tell me? Why did they teach us this in school? Why didn't the news tell me this? I'm like, dude, it's not their responsibility. Yeah, in a perfect world, they would be honest and upfront with that stuff. But the world's far from perfect. Like we can't, at some point, you just got to understand that it is what it is, right? Like if you look at, and I'm not trying to get all conspiratorial here, but, like the system is designed for you to be broke, depressed, demoralized, sick, fat, right? Like, if you just go with the flow and do what the average do, that's going to be the results that you were going to get. It's just the reality of the situation. And I'm not here to say the situation's good, bad. It just is what it is. So I'm looking, okay, what's important to me, dude? Like, okay, my health, my mind, my money, my relationships that matter most to me. Those are my responsibility to go out there and level up in, right? So like, I'm going to take the time and invest the time in the energy and all of that to understand what I need to do to take care of my own personal health, to take care of my own money, to take care of my own mind. And then even when it comes to my kids, right? Like, okay, I'm those same things. Like, okay, what do I need to do here? Should I do this with my, like this thing with my kids, whether it be a medical, thing, it's like, my doctors, we go to our doctor's kids pediatrician, they recommend something, I'm going to go out there and do my due diligence on that thing. And then make that decision as my kid's guardian, my kid's parents, my kids. Not that it's something up to the doctor, Now I wish the doctors, like, okay, when I walk in here, go get the, COVID-19 vax, let's give that to your kid. No, dude, like, I'm not going to opt in for that right now, right? Like, I'm not going to choose to do that, even if the doctor's pushing on me. But that's up to me to do my due diligence on that thing, with that. So taking that full responsibility, right? In all those aspects. Okay. So the next thing here is do not attach to labels. There utter and absolute bullshit. One of my mentors says, he has a great saying that is, labels are for shampoo, right? So labels go on shampoo. They are for shampoo. They are not for people. So when I talk about labels, because like when we attach ourselves to labels, then that becomes our identity. Then when we have this identity, that then dictates a lot of our actions and what we go out there and end up doing. That a lot of times when we, whether it's conscious or subconsciously, when we pull in that label to our identity, it puts us into a victim mindset. And I used to do this, man. So it's like, okay, when I was depressed, right? And I had depression, or was experiencing depression is the way I think of it now, and because I don't attach to labels. But during that time, I allowed myself to attach that label. I'm like, oh, I suffer from depression. I have depression, whatever. Where the reality was, that was just a phase of my life that I was experiencing that thing within. If I look at this, it's like, look, throughout my life, man, I've experienced depression. I've also experienced massive amounts of joy, massive amounts of happiness. I've experienced sadness. We're going to experience all these different waves of things and at different seasons and different times. But if I attach to that thing, when we attach to labels, it's so easy to become a victim. And that was a problem of mine for a lot of years that kept me from being proactive, that kept me from growth, because I just had this limitation. It was like it was like almost like a disability because I had this label and I couldn't, move on for this. So when I look at this now, it's like, dude, I look at this, like, I'm not depressed, right? I experienced depression, several decades ago at a point in my life, for a decent stint of time, but that was just something I experienced, but I'm not one to say like, oh, like, I have depression, right? Same thing with alcoholism. Okay, so many people are like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, right? No, dude, like, I experienced alcoholism. I got to a point where I couldn't get through until noon every day without a single drink. I was crushing, 12 plus drinks every single day at a minimum. I mean, years and years and years where I was crushing, 20, 30 drinks a day, for a long stint of time, whatever. But when I look at this, it was like, okay, I experienced that. But when I look at it today, I don't look at myself as I'm an alcoholic. Some people will come to me and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I talk about drinking, I'm drinking in front of you, I apologize, I know you're an alcoholic. I'm like, no, dude, I experienced that. But now that shit's done. That shit sailed, man. Like that old version of me is dead. Like, I'm not attaching that label. That label does not control me, right? So I'm not going to allow myself to I got to be careful because I'm an alcoholic. I got to, no, like that. Again, I experienced that for that one moment in my life. Boom, done, over, gone. Experienced obesity. Right? Like, when we look at this stuff, like when people ask, and this is getting a little spiritual, here, but when people ask, like, who are you? Well, it's very difficult to sit there and answer that question, because it's like, okay, well, yeah, man, I'm a husband, I'm a father, okay, well, who was I before I was married? Who was I before I had kids? Like, I was still fucking whatever this thing is, looking in the mirror, whatever with that, so, I mean, whatever you want to call us here, human beings that are just having a life experience in this life, whatever, but being very careful of attaching labels, because I've just found that most labels, or all labels, are essentially bullshit. And when we do attach those labels, it allows us then to, at least in my experience, so take this with a grain of salt, whatever you want to do. I'm just walking you through things that have been massively helpful for me and to me. But those labels, dude, like, have just allowed me to play victim. I can't tell you how many times, like, throughout a weekly basis, I have people reaching out to me in, the real estate industry that are like, oh man, I'm just not tech savvy. I'm not techie. I'm, again, when you add a label, it's like, then all of a sudden you've just 100% blocked your growth experience, right? It's kind of that fixed mindset versus growth mindset, right? Fixed mindset is, oh shit, I'm not techie, so I can't solve it. Versus a growth mindset is, hey man, I might suck at tech right now, but if I focus, if I work hard, like, I can eventually get this shit dialed in. But that's a label that they choose to attach themselves with. I know 80-year-olds that are in this industry that I work with, that I mentor, that fucking run circles around 20-year-olds when it comes to tech and shit. Like, it's not an age, I'm too old for that. No, dude. Right? Like, just throw that shit out the window. You can make anything happen that you want to make happen. All right, so the next thing I want to talk to you about is leveling up now. So leveling up, that's what the series is on the Get Shit Done Mode podcast here. But why is it important to level up right now? What do we got here? July 12th is at least when I'm recording this, whenever it's released and you're watching this, whatever that date may be. But as of right now in 2023, man, shit is changing at a rapid rate. This has been something that's been taking place for a long time, been in the works for a long time, but if we look at this gap of the haves and have-nots, those that are committed and those that are not committed, the middle class is being wiped out. It's being obliterated. I've had mentors of mine telling me for years and years, for shit, 15 years now or so, that there's no need for the middle class anymore. It eventually is going to go away. The middle class was essentially born and blew up during the Industrial Revolution because it was necessary. Now, if we look at the economy and just technology and how the world works now today, there's not the need that there once was. So then now if you've got the strong middle and that's just removed, that's just going to widen that gap between the haves and the have-nots. Now, I was hearing about that for the last let's just say 15 years, but it didn't become extremely it just get accelerated in the last 3 years, like just put on steroids, just massive acceleration with this. And we're watching this, if you're paying attention at all, like you're watching this unwind and happen right in front of our eyes at record speeds right now. Life today is 30% more expensive than it was 3 years ago. I know that we are told that, inflation's coming down, and the rate of inflation might have slowed, right? But we'd have to have like 35% deflation just to get back to where we were at 3 years ago. And that shit just, I don't see any signs and evidence of that happening anytime here soon. It could, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm not seeing any signs of that or any evidence of that taking place. Life is getting more and more expensive, right? And it just, average production, average work is not going to cut it, right? Because if average, which then put you in the middle, well, if the middle is now just getting wiped out, where's that going to put you, right? So now is the time, if you are not being intentional with your leveling up journey to go out there and crush it and kick ass in this life, now is the fucking time to start taking massive action on this. Because if you wait too long, that opportunity might be gone, man. If you don't have that right momentum, that opportunity might be gone, and it might just be that much more difficult to go out there and make these things happen. But here's the cool thing about this, though, is it's easier now. Even though the middle class is getting removed and getting wiped out right now, it's easier to go out there and dominate than any time that I've ever seen, right? Like, I haven't lived forever, so I can't say that any other time ever in history, but any time in any of our lifetimes, right? Or our parents' lifetimes, or probably our grandparents' lifetimes, and why is this? Because people are weaker than ever before. When life gets so damn good, it's just a part of this. And we've seen this in, rat experiments and mouse experiences. Like, go check out like the, rat utopia, experiment. When just the life gets so damn good, people get weak, right? Good times create weak people. Hard times create strong people. You've all heard those sayings before, but people today are just so distracted and they're just so damn weak mentally, physically. Look at like in America, dude. Like we're the most unhealthy human beings. So we're like the richest nation to ever exist, in at least recorded history. But we have the most unhappy, the most depressed, the most sick people. Like, what the fuck do we have to be depressed about or unhappy about? Or like, and I get that you might be experiencing unhappiness at certain aspects of your life. Like we all go through challenges and lose loved ones, whatever. So I understand that. However, though, people that aren't experiencing those temporarily because of a life event, but they're just like unhappy because of life, it's just, and when I say this, that was me. I was there, right? But I had to pull my head out of my ass and overcome that, and figure out how to solve, that depression that I was experiencing at that moment that I allowed myself to experience, right? That was a choice that I allowed myself to experience, to go out there and pull my head out of my ass and do that. But anyway, with this, it's easier than ever before because people are not disciplined. If we just look at this, people are fatter, weaker, unhealthier, unhappier than ever before. So if you are intentional, it is so easy to go out there and dominate, right? You got so many people playing the victimhood card more so today than ever before. And if we just look at look at all the PC going on, right? Political correctness taking place. Like you got to when I say you got, I'm not saying you need to or I need to. I'm just saying that this is what's pushed on us now is you got to be careful what you say. You got to whatever. Well, political correct, when we look at political correctness, political correction is a manifestation of a weak society. So we're just become this weak society, with the masses being weak. Well, it's easier to just go out there and murder it and crush it than ever before. So now again is that time to level up, and I recommend that you don't wait, that you take this serious, because there could be that time where you miss the boat on this, man. Like who knows what this is? I mean, I'm pushing and leveling up harder now than I ever have in my whole entire, almost 20 years of entrepreneur journey, because I know, like, if we got people getting that gap of people, the haves and the have-nots, we got that widening massively right now. And if you're not paying attention to this, you should be, if you're not going to take my word for it, like, you can go out there and do your own due diligence on this, but boom, it is just the haves and the have-nots. Look at the amount of billionaires being created. Look at the amount of people slide into poverty each and every single day. And it's not it's massive numbers, dude, hundreds of millions of people on an annual basis on a global scale. But we're starting to look at this, right? Like, okay, I know what side of that equation I want to be on. Like the haves, the have-nots, right? I know what side I want to be on, with that equation. Just because I know how difficult life is going to be if I'm on the equation I don't want to be on. And, so I'm willing to do the extremely difficult shit. So then that way difficult shit leads to an easy life. Easy life leads to difficult shit, right? So leave it at that. All right, last thing I want to talk to you about is expectations. All right, so, with this, my recommendation to you is have extremely high expectations for yourself. Higher expectations than anybody else has for you. Now, the downside for this, which I don't think to be a downside, but just to kind of prep you for this, is when you start having extremely high expectations, extremely high standards for your own personal self. As you start, creating successes or awards or accolades or whatever, where other people are like, oh my gosh, great job, that's amazing. You're not, it puts you in a position where you don't really, celebrate. And people come to me and be like, oh my gosh, man, you done all it, whatever. And then I'm just like, fuck, dude, like, I've done shit, but I know I got such high expectations for myself. I'm not meeting those expectations, right? Other people might think, oh, fuck, you're doing all this, you're crushing all this. I'm like, shit, I ain't nothing, man. I got so, I know I got so much further to go. And I'm not saying that like in a negative way. I'm not like, I'm self-confident. I'm all of those things. So I'm not, allowing it to become that negative component. I'm just sitting there and saying, like, you're going to drop the ego a little bit. Right. But set high expectations and standards for yourself, much higher than anybody else has set for you. Right. Then from there, have high expectations and standards for those that are within your personal world. So like set those parameters, those high expectations, like for your people that you work with, for your friends, for, all of that stuff. I mean, I cut out, one of my closest friends that we were, quote unquote best friends, I guess, if you will. And I have two best friends, one from, that still, could still classify, my best friend. But since we met in third grade, so since we were 9 years old. The other dude met when we were 16, but like we've been homies since then. He's in my wedding, whatever. Well, dude, like he broke my standards, broke my expectations. So about a year ago, I'd have cut that off, dude, that relationship. I haven't talked to him since. It was just like, hey man, wish you the best. But, we're going to go different ways on this life journey and no need to ever, reach out to me ever again. So have those high expectations, have those high standards for whether it be, friends, whether it be people that work within your organization, is Steve Jobs said, he's like, dude, don't lower your expectations for other people. Like be the fucking yardstick, right? But then from there, don't allow unmet expectations to surprise you. Because unmet expectations, if you allow them to surprise you, dude, you're gonna get, it's gonna put you in a bad mental state, man. It's gonna drive you freaking crazy. It's because the reality is, dude, people are gonna let you down. It just happens, man. So don't allow that to surprise you. So it's like, okay, man, like here's the expectation and standards that I'm gonna operate by, and that people that I expect people to operate by within my world. But if those aren't met by other people, right? Okay, like I'm not going to allow that to shock me. I'm not going to allow that to surprise me. I'm not going to lose sleep over those things. And it's easier said than done, but as you work on this stuff, the better and better that it ends up being, man. It's just because, again, if you allow those, when those expectations are unmet, dude, it can put you in a tough mental spot, man. And again, these are just battles that I've went through, personally with staff and with friends and, whatever. But I've just learned that, dude, like I can't control other people's actions. I can't control what they do, right? And I'm not going to like, oh, I can't believe that person lied. Look, dude, some people lie. Big percentage of people lie. Actually, we all lie, right? Like everybody fucking lies, right? Like at different levels, right? My wife and I are having that conversation the other day. She's like, I can't stand liars. And I'm like, well, like you're a liar. Like you can't stand yourself. And she's like, no, I don't lie. And I'm like, dude, like we told our kids for how many years that Santa Claus existed. Hopefully my video isn't freezing. I'm going to keep going, even though it looks like my video might be froze. But I'm like, okay, that, even though it was a kind of a white lie, societally accepted lie, but I'm like, we all still do. But anyway, though, I'm getting off track here of like, just understand that people are going to let you down. Shit happens. Some people are going to surprise you. Some people are going to shock you in a positive way, some in a negative way, right? But don't allow that to force you to lower those expectations, and just, again, don't allow that stuff to get you off track and surprise you, right? So anyway, you guys, that's all I got for you on today's Leveling Up episode. Again, I know that this is usually, I'm covering more of a singular topic, but these were just 8 things I really wanted to cover with you guys today that have just been, heavy on my mind over this past week. So anyway, appreciate you watching. Keep crushing it. Go check out gsdmode.com for more additional free resources and training, and I will see you next time. Peace.